James.
Raf.
I did want to quickly address last week when we talked about Ray-Bans and glasses. One thing I realized, and I've realized subsequent to that episode, talking to people and the feedback I've realized, is like...
Did you get screamed at for wanting to get the Facebook Ray-Bans?
No. I think...
A revolt?
People have passed the privacy thing. I think that's over. No one cares anymore. They're just like, you're probably right.
I was more worried about like the severe lack of swag.
Oh,
you're past
I've
that.
got plenty of it.
You're past that part in your life.
Yeah, exactly. But what I realized is a huge kind of tipping point thing is a lot of people being like, I can't see myself friggin' buying a device and putting it on my face every single day. Whereas glasses wearers like myself, this is actually like a big dividing point. Like you are far less likely to wear them than I am because I have glasses on my head every day anyway.
Yeah.
And so like just chucking some gizmos on the things I'm already wearing is not a big deal for me.
Yeah, I should probably have called you out for that because it's true that I will not be wearing Ray-Bans everywhere as part of my regular life.
But that makes sense because you haven't augmented your eyes yet.
Or ever, yeah.
YouTube. What a behemoth.
Big company, big website, big platform.
Yeah.
What a wonderful website it is.
Yeah. You on the tube.
You, tube.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting the sort of where the name comes from? Tube meaning sort of television.
Yep.
It's a bit antiquated now, but they used to call it the tube.
Yeah, because it had tubes.
It did have tubes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you, the royal you, I'm pointing at you right now.
Yeah, I'm Time Person of the Year.
Time person,
2012, whenever it was.
Yeah. Time Person of the Year, you, on the tube. So you can kind of see where the vision emerged. Television, and you're on it.
Yep, got it. Nailed it.
That's basically as much as I know about it, actually.
That's the background. Started as, well, that's why that is how it started. God damn, what terrible fucking content.
We're
on a roll.
Really off the rails. We've talked about YouTube in a bunch of different episodes for a bunch of different reasons.
Obviously.
Most recently, specifically about Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Such is Mr. Beast's power that we spoke about him before we even had a proper YouTube episode.
Yeah.
So think about the taxonomy of what we consider important. And to us, Mr. Beast is more important than YouTube itself. Yeah. Which is, I think, a belief we both share.
Oh, of course.
It's probably worth talking about YouTube broadly and sort of what it's doing now. It's like the keystone of the internet. It built the modern internet and the way it functions. Yeah. So it's kind of worth understanding how it did it and why it did it and like the choices it made and how that's helped produce the sickening hellscape we exist in today.
Indeed. Well, I mean, starting off, it was basically just like a hosting platform.
Yeah. We mentioned this in our dating app episode, which was a long time ago. Kind of a funny little fact is that YouTube originally started back in 2005, started by basically a few PayPal employees, three guys that met at PayPal, Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Jawed Karim. And their original idea was to create a video dating service. So a platform where you could, in the classic style of old video dating services from like the 70s or whatever, you do a video presenting yourself. Yeah. And your character and your the kind of guy you are for people to watch. That didn't really work in the end, but they were like, well, hang on. The sort of underlying video technology that we've built for this is actually quite good. Like we've hacked together a really interesting video platform. So let's make that the whole thing. Yeah. So YouTube's original mission sounds incredibly simple. It was like a place where you can upload video and share it with people.
And they can watch it.
And they can watch it using a web browser.
They can press play and watch a video.
And watch a stream video, which sounds pretty simple, but like at the time, that was hard and rare. Like there was no platform that was doing that incredibly well.
Yeah, I mean, let alone kind of skipping forward to certain parts of the video and that not just fucking out the entire thing.
Yeah, exactly. Fully streamed, so you're not downloading it, you're watching it. There were options like Google Video existed at the time and a few other ones. But the thing that YouTube succeeded in where those failed is they made the whole process like pretty easy. Yeah. So the idea being that like you could be a person who wasn't that good at computers, but you had video, probably from like literally a camcorder, if it was your own video, and just upload it super easily and share it. And that was basically the genesis of the site. Do you remember the first time you used YouTube?
I don't. remember sorry, I don't have a good answer to that. The answer is no, I don't.
I actually don't remember either, but I do. I remember vaguely like the time. I remember people started sending me links to it, and I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I knew like
It was one of like a few different weird kind of hosting platforms.
Because I do remember that when I saw YouTube and I got a link from it and I clicked, I think people were sending like music videos.
Yeah.
Because that was like an early, and they weren't necessarily legally uploaded.
No.
Which we'll get into in a bit. But something I do remember, and I may have like established some false consciousness here, but I seem to remember when I got a link from YouTube and I clicked back to the menu, my mind wasn't absolutely blown in the sense of like, oh my God, look at all these videos.
Yeah.
Like I had the vague idea like there are other places that are kind of like this that have been doing this sort of thing.
Yeah. The homepage, like kind of a lot of those pages back in the day was a list of kind of curated, here are some top videos.
It was like a grid of videos, basically, like a big page-sized grid of videos that you could click through.
Which all of those, Daily Motion, was that like?
Yeah, Daily Motion was
another one around the time, Meta Cafe, and there's all these kind of weird videos. Some of them insanely dodgy, basically didn't work. It didn't look like a destination.
No, it wasn't really its purpose either. It was
literally
it was
a file sharing.
It was an easy file sharing platform for people. The two factors which made it sort of like explode and become insanely popular while it was under original management and run by these three guys was number one, embedding.
Yeah.
So the fact that you could take an HTML embed of the YouTube Flash player, because it was like a Flash player back then, embed that onto a website. MySpace at the time.
Well, MySpace was the explosion. But like you could put anyone on their website or whatever, if they wanted to have a video playing, it is a huge pain in the ass to upload a video to an FTP server or something and then have the friggin' code and whatnot running to actually, it's that or upload to YouTube, copy the embed code, paste the embed code on your website.
It was still a Flash player, but it was much easier rather than having to find some place to host it and do it. And this was like its growth hack, essentially, that the others didn't have, that easy embedding.
And when MySpace allowed it, then boom, we're off to the races.
Yeah, you can embed them all over your MySpace page. A huge engine of growth for YouTube. The other aspect that was crucial and key.
Which is linked, because what were people putting on their MySpaces? It wasn't like a video of them.
No, what they were putting on there was like My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, Eminem.
Yeah, Eminem 8 Mile in 240p, like filmed off a TV. That's the sort of shit you're loading up your MySpace with. Was basically a pretty lax attitude, not necessarily deliberately, although maybe it was. I'd love to be a fly on the wall of some of those meetings.
Oh, I'm sure they would. I mean, I've read the Twitch stuff, and they're just like, oh yeah, in early Twitch when they were still Justin.tv, they were just like, we recognized that 98% of the content was pirated streams of like soccer.
Yeah, totally.
And 2% was gamers.
Yeah.
That's why we went that way.
But also like they just didn't have the systems in place to be able to remove it even if they wanted to. So I'm sure it was a bit of both. But there was just a vast amount of copyrighted material on YouTube and you could embed it anywhere.
And the people who were having their copyright infringed for the most part being Universal, big music labels or the movie studios or whatever, didn't have the manpower to be like manually going through one by one and flagging things as piracy. Like on both ends, there was kind of no way to stop the vast amounts of copyrighted material up there.
Totally. But it was obviously a boon for YouTube as well because it helped them with their growth. The next big milestone in YouTube's development was that they were bought by Google for $1.5 billion in what was probably the best purchase. Between that and Meta and Instagram in terms of just like sheer upside, probably the best purchase of the past 20 years. Because that's pretty cheap. It turns out one of the reasons that they were scrambling for a buyer was the usage was skyrocketing and they didn't have the infrastructure in place to
hosting video back then, the server space would have been way more expensive than it is now. I can imagine that'd be quite expensive.
Yeah, and this was pre to AWS. Like they were buying racks and racks of servers to run their site off. And two, the copyright factor, because the threat of legal escalation was sort of hanging over their shoulders. As you said, UMG, Sony were cracking the whip.
We're about to sue the absolute shit out of you.
We're about to destroy you. We're going to kill you. 2 in the back of their head.
Which you can do to a quickly growing startup that hasn't monetized yet.
Yeah, totally. But you can't quite do that to Google. So they went looking for a buyer. They found one. And hey presto, it was a pretty good deal. They had like a some sort of pre-existing relationship with Google with regards to Google Video, so it was sort of, they were well placed to sort of be the guys that stepped in and became Google's video solution, because as I said, Google Video was not amazing. And there was a time where they sort of coexisted under the Google banner, which kind of made no sense, but it definitely was the case for a while. Anyway, so
I personally think that the world would, or at least if you're interested in like competition and like stopping monopoly and that kind of crap, which, you know, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, the world would probably be a better place if that deal wasn't allowed to go through. Because were YouTube to successfully navigate, you know, the legal environment and implement the kind of tools and whatnot that it has now, you would think that after a while they would probably, like if they're a search engine for videos, then it would make sense for them to become also a search engine for images and then a search engine for links. And you would actually have a kind of search engine competitor, perhaps. Maybe not. And YouTube would have pursued Google Videos, and there'd be a kind of competitor to YouTube. So potentially there'd actually be competition in both the search and the kind of video search space. But
maybe.
Who knows?
It's also the other part of that counterfactual is what Google did for YouTube in terms of like Google was probably the best placed company to like turn them into a behemoth.
Totally. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Google's really good at search.
They're good at search and
YouTube is a search engine.
Google, yeah, YouTube is probably the biggest search engine aside from Google, right? It'd be right up there. And obviously they're very closely tied together, but also kind of separate in a way. But yeah, so Google took over YouTube, turned it into the absolute massive creature that it is now, like vast influence on culture, on technology, on the internet, on everything. And the sort of the unlock for YouTube, Google and YouTube, came a few years later actually, because for a while they sort of proceeded on the same path. They were a hosting site. Until the early 2010s, the vast majority of YouTube consumption was via embeds. So whether that's on less and less on social media, obviously, but you know, on news websites, on other websites, because YouTube kind of sits right on that crossover point between like the old internet, which is like website based, and everything was on like discrete websites, and you would have websites you like going to like the current internet where everyone's on like 4 platforms and it's all heavily platform and app oriented, right? They were right on that transition point and helped drive it. So yeah, until 2012, I think was the crossover point when YouTube went from being somewhere that you used to host videos and post them elsewhere to a place that you went, and that was like the site you sat on for 12 hours. And that was basically when Google introduced the algorithmic feed and became
and recommendations
and like souped themselves up as a search engine, a place that you went to look for stuff and where stuff was like handed to you on a platter as like the place to be.
Which basically is what all kind of social networks and whatever followed to this day. So using a timeline or a feed and using your own algorithms and lumping you into segments and blah, 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 to keep you on site, to keep feeding you the content that you like as opposed to the ones that you select personally. Because, I mean, that's a big jump. I mean, I know it seems like silly to talk about now, but on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever, it's still technically an algorithm. Like time is now, like sorting things by time is technically an algorithm. But like you're basically selecting, I want to see what Twitter used to be, every post from all these people just organized by time. Just whenever things are posted, or same was basically true on Facebook. They did start to kind of algorithmically change it, but it's like I'm selecting, like I'm telling you, the platform, here are the people whose posts I want to see, just show them to me.
Here are the creators I like to follow.
Yeah, exactly. And that now seems quaint, right? That idea that like
you only see the stuff that you've like strictly told the system you want to see. Yeah,
yeah, and it seems like almost like silly and pointless to say aloud. Everyone moved in that direction, but yeah, YouTube did seem to be the big innovators in that space.
Yeah, YouTube definitely drove it. Obviously, Facebook and Meta did too, so they were kind of working in tandem. But I think the way YouTube thought about it was particularly influential. And one of the other things that drove that shift, and you know, you could talk about this as like one of the great shifts in human society, alongside like, I don't know, Adam Smith writing his books, or like huge moments in like philosophical change, was like YouTube deciding that its target KPI was like time spent, on site instead of clicks and click-throughs, and how many people have clicked on a video or clicked on a link. Because that completely, obviously that is the target metric for every social site. And they've gone through like moments of reckoning where it's kind of like, actually, we don't want you to be looking at the site 24 hours a day. Like, the Apple model,
Yeah.
where it's like, we make these phones to make life easy. And the less you're looking at it, the more we're doing our job.
Yeah.
Whatever crap they're telling us now. But yeah, huge change, because what that means is the primary motivating force of YouTube over the past decade or more now is once a video is finished, we need to have something there for you to keep watching that's going to hold your attention, specifically you, not just like content that's universally engaging, although that's obviously drives YouTube as well, because there are certain things that they support and don't support, or emphasize or don't emphasize. But like making sure that once you finish watching, Andrew Tate roasts female server, epic, you've got part 2 of that video, or something else like that to keep watching,
or something else just even a tiny bit more extreme.
Just a little bit. Just a bit.
Just a tiny bit. Because you'd be bored if it was exactly the same thing, but you're obviously into that same thing.
So
you need to just turn the dial up a little bit, like the racism knob. Just
give the racism knob a little bit, a nudge
just
upward.
A tiny little nudge.
Yeah.
And just keep nudging it.
Yeah, we went through the kind of moral panic about this stuff.
Yeah, the radicalization engine.
It was basically after Trump got elected.
Yeah.
So it was like 2016, 2017, we had the big reckoning.
I bought a brand new MacBook Pro and opened Google Chrome in incognito mode, and I looked at one video of Hillary Clinton, and then 4.5 hours later, it was, we must destroy the lizard people. That kind of gear, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like, it is true. I believe it is a radicalization engine. Did it elect Trump? No. But like, it is a radicalization engine in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably – I think the story is more complex than just like –
YouTube make people
YouTube makes people – it activates your evil gene by like showing you increasing extreme content. Although,
more broadly, like, why do people have mashed potato brain, I think is probably the broader question.
But there's definitely truth to it. And a part of it is like the feedback loop of like people making more algorithmically targeted stuff that they know is going to thrive, which is probably angrier and more like partisan content. Et cetera,
but it is what I like.
It does. It is
like you want something that's just like the same as what you just watched, but just like a tiny bit more exciting. You know what I mean? And that just leads in all kinds of directions.
Yeah, and it makes people make more of that stuff. And then at the end of that, you have like Andrew Tate being arrested in Romania.
But it becoming a destination led to obviously like the phenomenon of the YouTuber.
A poison. A pox upon this earth.
And it's like something that I think YouTubers refer to themselves as, like YouTubers. I don't know if they introduce themselves to like a random person, like if they're maybe meeting like the celebrant of their wedding for the first time.
If they're at the wake at a funeral and they're shaking hands with YouTuber.
Well, if someone else said, what do you do? They probably would say I'm a YouTuber. But you know what I mean? Like kids say, I want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Like it's a profession. Like being a YouTuber.
As a particular type of content. And
which you kind of don't say about like, oh, I want to be an Instagram influencer or Instagrammer or whatever. They might say TikToker, yes, but like YouTuber as a thing is far more pervasive than any other.
And I think also when you hear YouTuber, you have a really clear idea of what that is. Like you can be doing lots of different things on YouTube. You can be doing lots of different stuff on social and as an influencer. When you hear YouTuber, I think of a particular genre of content, which is normally like someone talking down the barrel, like vlogging.
Yeah.
It's like, no one says vlogging
it's kind
anymore.
of vlogger.
It's vlogging, but it probably has higher production values and they do other stuff. And they do
around some niche.
But fundamentally, it's built around them as the person talking down the camera. Probably has like weird little jumpy cuts. They all have that sort of shit.
Yeah. And soy face.
They got the soy face thumbnails.
Although, did you see after we did the Mr. Beast episode, the death of the soy face?
Yeah, he ended it. Because he said he A/B tested his thumbnail, and when he had his mouth shut, it got like 9% more views or something.
It performed better, and so that they were going back and changing the thumbnail on all of his videos to close the mouth.
To close his mouth. That's the end of an era. Speaking about like civilizational shifts, the beginning of the optimizing for time spent rather than clicks, and Mr. Beast shutting his damn mouth. Anyway, so the YouTuber became, unfortunately, a towering figure in our culture. Kids want to be him. VidCon, they have their YouTube puts on their big old.
Yeah. Like you think of YouTube as a profession. I guess that comes down to like their monetization model, right? In that like everyone knows that for the most part, the creator of video gets some kind of royalty split, some kind of revenue split, some split of ad revenue. So it makes it feel like, oh, so it's a job, right? You can get paid without the rigmarole of sponsored content and like, you know, hashtags ad on Instagram or whatever, where you kind of have to be more entrepreneurial, go out there and find sponsors and brand partners or whatever. From day one, you have like revenue share. Well, not day one. I think you have to have a certain amount of subscribers.
Yeah, you do. You got to cross the threshold.
Yeah, but it's a small amount of subscribers. You can like start actually generating some revenue from your videos, which kind of makes it feel more authentic in a way. And I actually do think that that's somewhat important in that saying, oh, I'm just going to get a huge following on Instagram and then question mark, profit. Like you can't really say that to your mum. But like but you kind of can say like, no, you get a percentage of the thing. I don't know. It just feels more of a job.
Stuff you can say. This is the tailwind that YouTube is surfing. Stuff that is slightly explicable to your mom if you want to do it.
Well, I honestly think that the rev share model was a huge driving factor in people producing.
Yeah,
content
rather than having to go out there and find brand partners and do stuff like just pure like you get a cut of the ad revenue that's displayed on your video. Yeah, for sure.
Helped kind of create the supply side of things in ways that other platforms now kind of experiment with. I know TikTok has been kind of experimenting with it. Snapchat been experimenting with it, and
Twitter does it with like.
Well, X. But it's taken a long time for these platforms to kind of start doing that.
Yeah, it's hard to build, and this is this is the thing that Google is good at. One of the things that Google is good at is that they are very good at building an ad system.
Yes,
they are famously very good at it. Like the only other company as good as Google at it is Meta.
Yeah.
They're the kings of it, and that's what made YouTube successful is they're building that sort of ad system around the platform.
Yeah.
So they've gotten huge throughout the 2010s. They were growing very quickly when Google picked them up, but obviously Google turned them into one of the biggest money printing businesses in world history, essentially, and a huge part of the Google family. But the 2010s was also like a long period of YouTube and Google trying to like do other stuff as they were growing massively and becoming a huge cornerstone of how the internet worked. So there's a few things that kind of fall under that. The first is trying to capture value from something that YouTube became accidentally, which was the biggest music streaming service in the world, which it started off doing completely illegally as just being a place where, you would upload Eminem 8 Mile as the whole album as one video or whatever for people to click through. So they've tried to like make that work for a long time through various sort of systems. In 2014, they launched their music streaming subscription as something called Music Key, which I doubt you've probably never heard of it or thought about that. But that eventually became YouTube Red and then YouTube Premium, which we'll get into in a bit. From a very early point in like the music streaming universe, like early Spotify, early whatever, to capture some of that value, even though to this day they are still the number one place people go to listen to music, even though a lot of it is not fully or reliably monetized. That's happening. A second part of their attempt is to move into like basically premium content, meaning, okay, we have this absolute haven of user-made content ranging from extremely lo-fi, guy gets hit in the nuts by a football.
Or just like random guy talking about the death of civilization and the Antichrist being amongst us on a 4.5 hour video where they're like just walking around with 17 views.
Yep. And at the end he gets hit in the nuts with a football.
I wonder, like, there are some people out there, like there'd be one person out there who would be, like on the P&L of Google. So like have uploaded so much content that it's costing server space. Like there is like a genuine cost to the amount of video, but so few views that it's just generating like no ad revenue at all. Like there'd be some, like who is that person, I wonder? There's not a bot. I'm sure there's some weird bot accounts, but like a non-bot person out there, like there is someone in the world who doesn't know it. No one knows it.
Yeah. Putting aside the bots, which I'm sure is a huge problem on YouTube. There's all these APIs that are uploading shit onto there and whatever.
Yeah, God knows. There is someone out there who's just uploading hours and hours, days and months worth of video of themselves and getting no views and just costing Google money.
There's a junior analyst who's hashed this out in a spreadsheet and be like, there's this guy that lives in Indianapolis and he uploads 850 hours of video a month. And he's still going.
He's so far generated 17 cents in ad revenue.
We've got to kill him. Yeah, that's quite possible. So yeah, so they've got everything ranging from that guy or extremely lo-fi content, all the way up to, Mr. Beast does some stunt where he hands out $100,000 to people doing Squid Game recreation. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, but they want to get more premium. But this was a trend. We've talked about it like over the last kind of Netflix's share price went psycho, and then anyone who like had any content was like, maybe we should be making premium content and charging money for it. From like the Apples and stuff of the world with Apple TV, Amazon, etc., to Facebook and like YouTube being like, and Quibi was raising heaps of money at the time as well. It's
totally.
like people will pay for premium content.
For premium short form content, yeah. I mean, I think it's an ongoing process. Just what it looks like is a bit different.
Yeah.
Because like the original, they got into the production of YouTube originals, YouTube Red originals, because Red was their subscription service. The idea being we're going to produce original content like Netflix does. So you might be watching man gets hit in the nut with a football, and then you click over, and there's a gripping, riveting drama.
Yeah.
That you get as part of your paid subscription that YouTube has produced, and it's going to be amazing. As you said, many platforms attempted this, and I actually hadn't heard much about YouTube Originals in a while. So before we record this episode, I went onto the page, or the Wikipedia page, just list of YouTube Originals, and it seems like in true Google form they just kind of stopped doing them, except for kids content, like weird Cocomelon rip-off stuff.
Yeah, but that's a whole other thing, like the YouTube Kids thing, and maybe now's a good time to get in it. So they got busted for tracking kids. You know that in America, child data privacy means you can't collect data on children under the age of 13, and they were obviously because kids are using YouTube, and it's hard to stop them really. But they kind of proved that like you were serving this content that was obviously for children under 13, and you were collecting data. So therefore, $200 million fine, slightly less, whatever. But it was nothing to Google. But what that basically immediately led to was YouTube Kids, which is a platform for under 13-year-olds, realistically for younger, that is all kind of highly curated, safe content, like things like The Wiggles and Cocomelon and whatnot. But they pay The Wiggles to make a bespoke 40-minute best of The Wiggles for YouTube Kids, and Cocomelon for YouTube Kids and whatnot.
Yeah,
which is so that's where all of their kind of original content is now.
Is now focused, and it's a rational calculation because the proportion of YouTube content that must be watched by people under 12 must be vast.
Oh yeah,
as a percentage of total YouTube consumption would be very significant.
Yeah. The numbers on YouTube watch time for children between ages 8 and 12 in America is 80 minutes a day. So it's kids are watching it.
Kids do be watching YouTube. And the classic image of the modern age is some kid at a shopping center or in a restaurant or something with the world's most fucked looking iPad.
With some kind of insane case.
It's insane fluoro green rubber case with big handles. Yeah. And the screen is just like a war zone. Yeah. So it's covered in multicolored fluid, encrustulated.
Yeah. With just brightly colored flashing, and hopefully they're wearing headphones, often not.
Often not. And they're watching some thing that's made in some Romanian dungeon of 3D spheres spinning around and weird nursery rhymes with an AI voice. This is the image of the iPad kid being these are what these children are being raised on. They're being taught by an algorithm in the most literal sense, in the sense that no human hands have touched this video at any point in its production. Anyway, but we wait for the future, folks. But I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen to our next premium episode, and we'll get into that.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, there's the YouTube Kids side, and one other thing we'll say before we move on is part of their problem, as well as the tracking, is they had another big sort of moral panic. I say moral panic not in the derisive sense, because there was obviously something there, which is that they have many online communities a pedophile problem.
Yes,
they have
the world does.
The world unfortunately has that as an issue that
we've got a pedophile problem, folks.
Down Around has no problem.
No, not yet. But with scale, who knows? No, this is rock spider free.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're listening, click off.
Yeah. No pedophiles allowed to listen. You agree contractually, if you continue to listen to this, you contractually agree to either not be a pedophile, and if you are a pedophile, stop being a pedophile. Immediately. That's ideal. C is stop listening.
Stop listening. There are many
We'd rather be, but stop listening.
Yeah. There are many, many podcasts who are more welcoming to your ilk.
that are targeted towards you. All In podcast, for example.
All In podcasts, yeah, absolutely.
Don't know if that's defamatory. It's all parody, though. It's all parody. Except for the part where we say pedophiles aren't welcome. That's not parody.
That wasn't parody. That was real. So they had that problem. But also, I mean, apart from that thing, which, as you said, it's a societal problem, they also had the issue of like all those incredibly weird videos that were sort of targeted.
Like 4chan-y trolling style, right? Where it's like targeted a 5-year-old and then showed like the cartoon like slitting their wrists or whatever.
Yeah, like that stuff. And then other ones that were kind of like that, which seemed like maybe they were CSAM adjacent. Anyway, so there was like lots of weird stuff that went on.
Oh, and like weird fucking grooming, which I mean, it happens heaps on TikTok as well. Well, not even like this is side rant. Happens on YouTube, happens on TikTok, but like I feel like it's somewhat more shown this by my wife, or at least described by my wife, this problem on TikTok where like these kind of parent influencers with their kid friggin' putting up videos of their kid in like dress up things and just getting insane views. And once again, like algorithm society, they just continue to dress up their kids in like more and more provocative kind of clothing and getting more and more views.
Yeah, I mean,
sickening stuff, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, no, it's like, it's bad. And it's just like one of those, again, I think in general, like parenting YouTube / parenting TikTok, let's shut it down until we figure out what's going on.
Yes.
Like,
yes. I agree.
The incentives,
no one under the age of 18 should be allowed to film themselves, full stop.
Ever. Or be filmed. You should get like a weird AI blur.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, totally.
Well, it shouldn't be online. Okay, fine. You're allowed to take photos of your kids, but not on an internet-connected device. The government should hand out old Sony Power Shots to every new parent.
It comes in your welcoming box.
Yeah. Like from the government.
You got some nappies. You got like an instructional booklet. A crusty Sony Power Shot.
Yeah, that's the only
thing
you're
wild with that.
To take photos and videos of your children with.
But I don't know. I feel every community on a video platform, YouTube or whatever, the arc of history is they start off completely fine and they just driven by whether it's algorithmic incentives or they're sent crazy by fame, they just end up in this fucked up place.
Yeah.
And I don't know. YouTube should do something about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that looks like. Anyway, so lengthy digression about YouTube Kids. The other premium side, so they've kind of, as I said, they've abandoned original programming.
Yeah.
I'd say it seems. Maybe they'll come back to it.
Because that was only available to like premium subscribers, right?
Yeah, it was only available for premium. And the other side of this is they are, and they still are, like a place where you can just like rent Blockbuster movies or rent movies in the same way as you can from the Apple, well, what used to be the iTunes store, but is now like their Apple TV store.
Yeah.
And if you search for like a movie on YouTube, you'll often get like, here's the trailer and here's the link to rent it on YouTube. And like, I'm sure that as a line item, it's probably a nice business for them, but it's not their focus.
Unfortunately, we don't know it because they don't split it out.
They split nothing out, yeah.
But yeah, the YouTube Premium thing is funny because I've been YouTube Premium for years. I have never once even seen a YouTube original advertised to me, really.
Yeah.
Let alone watch one.
No.
I have no idea what they are. I haven't seen one.
I think that also comes down to something that's like institutional about Google, right?
Yeah.
It's like there are things that Google are like supernaturally good at, ads being one of them, you know, parts of their like research and like their tech stack and whatever. Consumer-facing products and like being a media company and being like public-facing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's just not they haven't got the juice for it, you know.
No.
They can't be Apple. They've gone through multiple phases of we care about design now. Here are our new principles. They look great or whatever.
Well, they're doing that well, I guess, because they have to more with their devices, right?
Yeah, and they're totally like that stuff's fine. On the other side, there's just like I feel like a deeper commitment to like really sticking with something like that.
Yeah,
and
true.
Like okay, there's an arm of Google that is essentially a media company, and we have to like relentlessly execute and be like the best video production house, for example.
Yeah,
or the best whatever. Just I don't think they're constitutionally capable of doing that.
No.
So YouTube Premium now, what it offers you is
it's kind of three arms, right?
Yeah. So first is ad-free video, which is extremely valuable because
you just said, what is Google good at? Ads. So being able to like, they're so good at ads that like I'm more than happy to pay to escape that.
Is it yeah, exactly. Because they're in. It's like, get out of my head. And
For the record, I don't pay for ads like so that I think they're not tracking me. They're obviously still tracking me. And
you just don't want to see them.
I just don't want to see
because as something you said before the episode, the YouTube ad load at the moment, if you don't pay for it, is very heavy. Like there's a lot of ads.
Yeah, I don't know how people stand it. I think YouTube Premium is just if you watch YouTube regularly, which like we all do, you should pay for it. Like you should pay whatever it is, $20.
It's
pretty expensive.
It's a pretty as far as
because it has to like outweigh the amount that they get off ads, right? Like so it's very easy for them to set a price point that's just like slightly higher than what they can monetize you for, or monetize the average user for.
Yeah. So like that part of it is good because as I said, ad load is pretty high. The other part is YouTube Music.
Yeah.
It was funny because I had never opened YouTube Music before, actually, like the discrete app. Obviously, I've listened to music on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because YouTube has the benefit of, they have all the partnerships with all the labels as Spotify / Apple Music does.
Yeah. And they did a good job of implementing, like YouTube implemented, like, doesn't matter who uploads the music that belongs to Universal, Universal gets the money whenever it's played.
Yeah. Like the Wild West days of being able to upload whatever you want of copyrighted content on YouTube is, with some caveats, mostly over.
And also they came to a good. I think where it's ended up, at least for like a viewers, is because remember there was a period where just there was so many dead links to YouTube.
Yeah,
like, embeds were dead, like because everything was just auto taken down. Basically, if it contained copyright material, it was just pulled. Whereas now the fact that they've come to those agreements with the copyright holders that they'll just like leave it up, but you'll get the money and not the person who uploaded the video. Like that is a way better place.
Yeah, totally. It's more beneficial for everyone. So they have that arrangement, but they also have the benefit that there's like a shitload of stuff uploaded to YouTube that's just not available anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like you're not being able to find it on Spotify, like whether it's like old demos or mixtapes
and
like DJ sets, like
or just random old funk band from like Japan or whatever from the late 70s.
Yeah, and someone's just uploaded the vinyl they've ripped or whatever. YouTube is full of that stuff. So in theory, it makes a lot of sense. And if you already someone who watches a lot of YouTube, maybe it makes sense to have YouTube Music be your primary music listening site.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's going to be listeners of this episode that are like, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. And I cherish you and I respect you. But like I open the YouTube Music app and it's just like, what if Spotify looks 75% shitter?
Yeah. It looks like a kind of scam clone app in the App Store of Spotify.
Yeah.
But down to the playlists and everything.
They've copied the style.
Yeah.
The quality control seems like kind of poor. But
it just looks worse, right? Like the kerning is a bit worse. The spacing between like the title of the playlist and the description is just a tiny bit off. Like it's just wrong. Everything's just slightly wrong.
Yeah,
the sizing is all slightly bigger
Yeah.
on Spotify, but again with no rounded edges. It's all just a bit wrong.
Yeah, and they mix in together like proper uploads by UMG or Sony or whatever with 70s Japanese funk band, which might be like full of pops and clicks and terrible upload quality. They're all kind of like thrown in together in like weird jumble of tracks, but in that Spotify-ish interface. So again, it's like one of those things like for Google, they're probably like, whatever, this is just another one of the things we offer.
Yeah.
Another thing to add to the bundle. They probably don't have any internal belief that they're going to unseat Spotify. Like I doubt that would be their mission, but they're like, we have something that's solid and has an extensive library. So.
Yeah, but I guess it keeps people sticky to the premium subscription, like potentially, right? Like it's just, another thing. Same reason why, like, Apple and Apple TV and whatnot and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you bought it because you didn't like the ads or because you really wanted to watch a YouTube premium show that no longer exists, and then you start using YouTube Music and start putting your playlists and whatnot on there, then maybe you'll stick around for premium, even if you like decide that you don't mind the ads anymore. Just like, I guess, a stickiness to it. And I guess it makes sense because for them, as you say, the content's already there. They've already worked out the royalties. It's really just like an interface on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it's very weird. It's a weird experience.
No,
again, I bet there's a lot of Android users who probably use it.
That's true, actually. I've forgotten about them. I'd forgotten about our friends, the Android users. Don't know what goes on over there.
Yeah, and they're probably using Google Podcasts and whatnot.
Which is being shut down. I found out last week. So, again, just like classic Google stuff, they have this like podcast platform, which is like any other podcast platform.
Yeah, I assume it's got tens of millions at least users.
Yeah, if not more. Probably, as you say, it's probably the main thing that Android uses.
100 million odd users. Nah, not big enough.
They're shutting it down. I think they might be rolling it in some form into YouTube.
Into YouTube. That's what you'd think, because I mean that's what we have.
But again,
YouTube is the biggest podcast platform in the world.
Exactly. That's the other side of it. But again, same thing. Google just like whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll try something else.
Well, the other part of YouTube Music though that is just like a tab on there is like YouTube Music Shorts, which is obviously like another world that YouTube kind of moved into because. Well, as you've mentioned previously, like at the moment, a lot of the things, the innovations that YouTube are doing are just kind of copying.
Yeah.
And like the YouTube Shorts thing is, TikTok.
Yeah.
Because like obviously TikTok was a big threat for YouTube, and it has actually taken. I don't know if it's taken. This is the thing. A lot of people are spending a lot of time watching TikTok. Teens and whatever. Again, it's on par. The amount of time people spent watching YouTube and watching TikTok for a teenager in America is basically on par. It's like 88 minutes a day or something like that. It's in the 80s. They're both in the 80s, similar amounts. And like obviously like the red light would have been flashing when TikTok was gaining in popularity.
And they got onto it pretty quick. Like 2020, they launched YouTube Shorts, which is their TikTok clone.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that would have, that beat Reels to market for sure. I think it was actually like the first company to really respond to it, understandably. Yeah, if you look at YouTube Shorts, it's definitely like the worst of the TikTok clones. I mean, if you think about the top three as being TikTok, Reels, Shorts, Shorts is like a comfortable third there. And if every time you see it pushed to me, like I see it pushed to me on...
Well, they're pushing it so hard. It's the first thing that is... I think it's at the top of the feed when you open YouTube homepage. It's like, it's the friggin' YouTube Shorts.
Yeah. And it's like...
it's sus.
Lowest common denominator stuff, like real low IQ shit.
Super Facebook tier.
Yeah, it's Facebook watched.
Yeah, mine yesterday, the first one, and it's always like this. There's like kind of provocative ones, which is like top 20 sport fail oops moments of all time, and then it's like basically like a semi upskirt of a tennis player, like just vaguely implying you're going to see nip slips or whatever from athletes. That's the implication. I've never even clicked on one. I assume it's not. I assume it's like people falling over while playing tennis or whatever. Just like. Just juicing like dumbest people of all time, just full horny melt brain, just like click, monkey, just like mouse with the cocaine, like pressing the electric shock.
Yeah,
thing.
Exactly. It's like tennis player rough skirts.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, even to the point like there's a whole viral trend on TikTok, which is like making fun of YouTube Shorts users for being like sub-functional in their intelligence.
I mean, they must be, from what I've seen.
They call it. I think you're right. But again, it's like one of those things where YouTube has the scale. Again, I don't think YouTube has any illusion that Shorts is going to completely take over TikTok. I'm sure they'd love that if that happened and it became the place that people went and they could cultivate that community. But they were just like, we have the scale. The size of us dwarfs anything else. Let's just have it as an option and let's push it. And we know that this is a format people enjoy.
Yeah, and see what happens.
So just see what happens and let's see if we can make this work.
In much the same way that they were pushing the Twitch competitor a couple of years ago. Like Shorts has taken the place of, if I had opened YouTube like 3 years ago,
you would have seen stream.
It would have been someone gaming, like a gaming stream that I also wasn't in.
So yeah, I mean, this really is the story of YouTube over the past few years. Just like they established this like algorithmic, always watching video universe that everyone chases now.
Yeah.
They kind of replaced text and photos as like the way the internet works.
Yeah.
And now there are much more nimble players trying to like create new ways of doing that.
Yeah.
And YouTube is just like, well, we'll do that as well. So they did that with Twitch.
Which is, I guess, our point. Like when you said at the very beginning that, they unleashed this beast on the world of the kind of recommended video algorithm. Every other social media site is basically trying to become more like YouTube, is basically what the trend has been. It's like more video with like algorithmically served to you. So you just sit there and watch random videos from other people who aren't your friends, that you've given us no real signals, that you've like no specific signals. Like you haven't, as I said, gone and liked a Facebook page about DIY. It's just,
it knows
you looked up how to friggin' fix a guttering or whatever, and now it's just kind of pinging you with what it thinks is which is another thing why, I mean, TikTok is amazing how they have collected data, and obviously like everyone knows how quickly it can kind of start working out where your interests are and interests that you didn't even realize you had. But the benefit that YouTube have is they have that plus search engine, plus they know everything that you've searched on Google. and everything you've searched on YouTube previously, which is like more information. And TikTok obviously have a search engine.
Yeah, and it is
it's growing.
I wouldn't sleep on the TikTok search engine.
I know that like Zoomers use it as their number one search engine.
It's getting a lot better, and I think that would actually be setting off alarm bells in Google HQ more than people like vertical video short stuff now.
Yeah,
they would be like, oh shit, people are actually using it to search for recipes and like how to do stuff. And
yeah, especially as TikTok's integrating like e-commerce and shit.
Yeah,
as well.
over the past like 6 months to a year, the TikTok search engine has gone from being basically useless to quite good. So they're obviously putting a lot of effort behind it. The Twitch thing is interesting, because like again, it's like a thing where they were like, oh, people like watching people play video games for 6 hours. We've got a bit of that content here, but let's just make it more of a focus, pay people.
It was also like peak creator economy hype, which I mean they were the kings of to start with, but new ways of monetizing, right? With like bits and subscriptions. Like everyone is looking for revenue models outside of advertising.
Like giving people tips or whatever. But it's kind of like I don't stay very plugged into the game streaming universe because I don't watch streaming games. But one thing I thought was super interesting is that I just was like tried to get the perspective from streamers of like what's better, Google's like YouTube video streaming or Twitch. And I landed on like a esports content platform that was like advising you on how to become a streamer, and its kind of take I thought was kind of interesting and speaks to YouTube generally. It was like, what should you use, Twitch or YouTube streaming? And it was basically like, if you are an extroverted person and you're confident in your ability to build a social following and build a community and like use your own sort of like charisma, etc., to make something, you should be on Twitch because that's where the community is, that's where the energy is, and that's where like all the biggest streamers, blah, 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 the culture of streaming is there. If you don't have any of those things, if you haven't got swag, you haven't got the juice.
But you game hard.
But you just want to play games and make content and stream it, use YouTube because like their natural sort of like growth mechanism by virtue of like, stuff being recommended.
Yeah, discoverability
and the fact that it has billions of users, then you should use YouTube. And I think that's kind of like a really interesting reflection on YouTube generally because it's, as a social platform, it sucks shit. It's like it has community tools for creators. Like you can make text posts saying like, what would you like me to cover in my next video? Yeah. And then people can comment on it. But it's not that good. The comment section on any YouTube video is notoriously pretty low quality.
Yeah, I mean, that's somewhere where I feel like they really have de-emphasized it. I think they just don't really want people going down there, which is fair enough. And
that's true. On mobile, you got to scroll for ages.
You got to scroll past all the recommended videos and whatnot to get down to comments. But they really haven't. Like, it's not a good place for interaction, right? Like, it's quite old-fashioned the way it looks, where you kind of see blocks of text with like read more and like expand comments and whatnot. It just feels very old. It's no better than Reddit, and Reddit is not very good.
The last time they really tried to get this cranking was when they did like the Google Plus and YouTube merge. So remember, Google Plus was Google's attempt at a Facebook, which was just completely wrong-headed from the ground up. And as a result, they tried to import it to YouTube and involved having to use your real name to, I guess, make racist comments on YouTube videos. Community didn't like that. To this day, there's been 2 good pieces of culture generated from YouTube comments. And the first is, they're both Twitter accounts that screenshot once. The first one is Balkan YouTube comments. And it's just like, it's just people commenting every time that it's like an argument between Serbs and Croats in YouTube comments. Amazing. And the second one is disco comments, which is just guys commenting on Italo disco videos from the 80s, reminiscing on their life during the 80s.
Oh, man.
Again, a collection of incredible comments.
Oh, there are some good comments on old dance music tracks and like old drum and bass stuff.
It's like 1986, Roma. I met so many beautiful women. Those days will never die, like that kind of shit. Anyway, look those up. They're great. So the last thing for us to sort of talk about, there's obviously a shitload of YouTube stuff we have only glancingly touched on. We can probably do fuller episodes in future. But I think where they go next, and also like, does anything pose a significant threat to like its core business?
Well, I think the big interesting thing is YouTube TV, which is not available here. But in the States, it's basically the cable bundle. Like for $73 a month American, so cable bundle pricing, you get access to kind of Fox News, this, that, and the other, sports packages, all of the channels, like all of the cable kind of style channels. It is like literally a kind of cable replacement, almost just like for like cable replacement. And obviously all of those kind of cable, all of the channels that previously had licensing deals with over there, whatever, Comcast and whoever it is, like your big kind of cable TV companies, have done a deal with YouTube in a similar way. And YouTube are basically trying to get the quote unquote cord cutters who still, I guess, want that passive TV. Because the TV itself is a huge platform getting bigger and bigger and bigger for YouTube. Like people opening YouTube on their TV and just letting it run as if it's the TV.
Yep.
So like that's the kind of big, interesting play as well as, and this is kind of is in the same world, like the move into sport and having those kind of sports packages on. Because the sporting, as we've discussed in our sport episode, like the big sporting organizations like the NFL, they don't want to and / don't really have the capacity to do genuinely direct to consumer. And obviously the big play at the moment is like YouTube. They have a Sunday night ticket or whatever for NFL. Like if you want to watch this Sunday games, you have to do it through YouTube Premium.
That cost YouTube $16 billion. So that was not a small expense.
Yeah.
For this quite modest package of NFL games.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes back to what we're talking about in our sports streaming episode and what have you. But like sports is one of the few parts of the content universe that YouTube can't really get super easily through user-generated content. Yes, there's a ton of sports content on YouTube. There are a lot of like sports YouTubers who are guys who like, you know, will sit down and talk about like Premier League down the camera. But when it comes to like watching the actual sport, it's definitely not as advanced a category as anything else on YouTube because the rights are so tightly managed.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't watch the Olympics on YouTube because the IOC will bomb YouTube headquarters.
Exactly.
And the same for like any of the codes.
UFC, just like absolutely, you can't watch like highlights of UFC unless it's on like a.
So it's a whole absence that they want to fill, and they kind of have to fill through like traditional deals.
Yeah, which sport is obviously fantastic for user acquisition in that if you want to watch, I don't know, whatever your favorite team on a Sunday, if you want to watch the Knicks versus the Hooligans, the Warriors. The Warriors is probably more likely.
The Warriors, yes.
The Warriors, versus the Eagles. Then you got to pay up. You got to pay. And so you will pay for YouTube Premium to kind of try it out, which is unlike basically any other thing. With the downside being, again, on the sports episode we talked about, you're very unlikely to watch that game again. Like once it's done, it's done. It's a live experience only, pretty much. Like this,
and then other than that, it's like maybe there's like a compilation of great plays or like you cut out the stuff that's really great that people like to rewatch.
Yeah, but this play, I see it as this is part of this. It goes way back to our kind of Mark DiStefano episode, the first one, this idea of kind of owning the TV and wanting people when they turn on the TV, when they want to watch some entertainment, in order to navigate to all of their other shows, like in this case, it might be like Fox News or the equivalent of Fox 8, whatever, like what are those channels called? Like the Hallmark channel.
Yeah, like all that kind of stuff.
Discovery, etc. They do it through the YouTube app.
Yeah. Like in a perfect world, YouTube would love if its primary consumption experience as someone sits down on the couch, they open it up, they might watch last night's game or like a game that's on. Then afterwards they flick over and watch a Mr. Beast video.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing.
Or it just suggests it, right? Like, or it just plays. It just plays like what their next subscription is.
It goes through, you have Mr. Beast, maybe then you watch like some free-flowing sort of television.
Yeah.
Everything in the one place living in YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, whether they can actually pull that off is, I don't know, an open question.
Yeah, and one of the benefits though it's like sports is an obvious one, but all of these channels, like Fox News, whatever it is if not everyone in the world has a cable box and you're one of those channels on the cable box, so you're just naturally going to slowly woo people over. If people don't have access to you at all because they don't have cable, then what YouTube can offer that I guess someone like Apple TV or Amazon or whatever can't as well is that kind of recommendation thing, right? Where it's like you put up a short clip of like one of your blonde, skinny hosts saying something racist, and then below it says like, hey, you want to watch more of this, then subscribe to Fox News or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like you have actually some kind of user acquisition funnel, like from the free YouTube distribution to friggin' 2.7 billion people in the world over to like some kind of paid subscription.
Which is because they really have nothing like that at all. It's to the extent it exists, it's all like bespoke and done through like the comments or the
Yeah.
the video descriptions.
But then the flip side is just like, is this once again just bolting on the old model, which was predicated on a cable literally being connected to your house and like you didn't have any other option? Like that was increasing your options. Like you increased your options from the free-to-air like stations to kind of 100 stations. Now you have the entire internet, and those 80 extra stations or whatever are competing with the rest of the internet. Like, does that model? Will it exist? Like,
I don't know. Yeah, it's like you were saying before, the remark that a lot of people say, which is like a lot of the history of media consumption is sort of like unbundling and rebundling.
Yeah.
And like business in general, actually bundling.
Yeah.
But this particular era of rebundling is pretty awkward.
Yeah.
Because people are used to a certain way of consuming now that is not easy to bundle in sort of traditional ways.
Yeah.
Traditional media packages or what have you.
Which might mean that YouTube is slightly better placed to capitalize on it because, people are just used to kind of going to a destination and then getting weird recommendations. So maybe some kind of premium package, if the content is worth it, though. You've somehow got to justify to people that this $73 American that you're paying a month it's worth you to continue paying that versus all of this stuff you get for free, which the stuff you get for free, there's fuckloads of it.
Yeah, totally. The final point is just with everything we've talked about and how big YouTube's come, are they at risk of being unseated? Probably not. I think they are one of the safest platforms imaginable. They're only like the Facebook Watch stuff, which is embarrassing. Facebook obviously generates a huge amount of views for them among a particular kind of audience, but it's just the worst content imaginable, just complete dog shit, and no one talks about it anymore. TikTok is obviously a threat in terms of eyeballs and watch time, but it's like
they're at a huge content disadvantage in that YouTube has nearly 20 years of legacy content on there for things like fix your car window.
And TikTok, and the way TikTok works with its like insanely granular feed, like it's pure feed with no other way of navigating or minimal other ways of navigating, is they haven't cracked the egg of how to make that work with long form content. Like I'm not going to sit there and watch a 4-hour TikTok. I'm not going to watch a 4-hour YouTube either, just quietly, but people do.
Yeah.
In fact, people love watching that stuff.
Yeah.
They're sitting down and watching 4 hours of Rogan or like a 4-hour video essay about the Silk Road or something. So like they're pretty safe there as well. There's been a bunch of like explicit YouTube competitors that have popped up over the past few years, like Rumble. Almost all of them are like anti-woke YouTubes.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Because YouTube enforces pretty strict content standards, which it kind of has to by virtue of what it is, public company that is huge and has to manage a vast community and like doesn't want Nazi stuff on there or whatever.
Yeah. They want money from ads.
Yeah, exactly. They want money
from a company that wants money from advertisers.
Yeah, and they will do. One of the things that like conservatives complain about these days, or like right-wing people online, is that if you do that stuff, YouTube will demonetize you. They'll let you post videos, but you can't make any money off them.
Yeah. Russell Brand got demonetized.
Yeah, exactly. And then Russell Brand went to Rumble, and Rumble, which is now a publicly listed company,
surely a SPAC.
It was a SPAC, yeah. But like the thing that I've looked at all these, A, they look like shit. They're like the technology just looks garbage. But B, it's like they can't reach the scale. Nobody goes to Rumble to, as much as they claim otherwise. No one goes to Rumble to like look at DIY content. They go there to hear Russell Brand talking about Gaza.
Yeah.
For 4 hours. They don't want to like, it's like, here's how you fix a toilet.
Yeah.
Or like, here's like a weird gossipy thing of like entertainment, like celebrity bit of news. Or
news about other YouTubers. Like it's like gossip about other YouTubers. Like they've created an ecosystem.
Yeah, and these guys have created an ecosystem for guys who purely want to see like Russell Brand talking about the vaccine or one of those like To Catch a Predator style pedo stings or like, just that's
someone who's monitoring the border.
Yeah, exactly. Like a webcam feed of America's southern border. Like that's the only content that's on there.
Yeah. So like those competitors. Yeah, TikTok's obviously the kind of the big one in that space, and then like yada yada personalized AI generated content at some point. But YouTube is probably best place to do that over TikTok. To be fair,
to host that.
And I guess like if Zoomers are truly, you hear this that TikTok is like Zoomer's number one search engine, but Zoomers is still spending a shitload of time on YouTube.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think it seemed to come and go, potentially due to the number of controversies in the space. Remember, like I assume it's still a thing, like the family YouTube, like, and they'd be called, like, I think there was literally one called, like, maybe this is wrong, but I think they were called the Tards, and they were like a family, and it's true. I think it's true. I know, but I'm pretty sure that they were called the Tards, and like, but you know, family YouTubes is like, oh, I live in some insane house in like the American Midwest or whatever, and like we're just like a very white normal family with my 2 kids, and they seem to somehow put up like a 30-minute video every day and like of just their life.
Yeah, when I was talking about like parenting YouTubers, I was definitely including this stuff, like this weird day in the life family things.
Yeah, and those families kind of got, but I feel like we don't hear about them anymore. I definitely remember over the last few years hearing scandals where someone like cheated on their wife.
I'm talking about the arc of weirdness. Yeah. Like the narrative demands that something goes wrong there.
Yeah,
like they all get arrested for like child abuse and like all this sort of stuff.
I feel like it's probably good that doesn't pop up anymore.
You cannot be a wholesome family and document every single day.
No, I know. There's something, there's a precondition there.
So there's something fundamentally wrong with you.
Yeah, like the type of person who embarks on that kind of quest.
As soon as the impulse hits your mind of like, I should make my family YouTube famous.
Yeah.
Straight into the back of the paddy wagon, I think.
Yeah, that is definitely something that YouTube didn't need to give us.
Mm. Along with all the rest of it.
Susan Wojcicki should be arrested. I believe she has been.
Yeah, she was. She was arrested and she was put under a military court-martial.
Yeah.
For harvesting adrenochrome.
Yeah, but now they've just got a clone out there in retirement.
Demonetizing people.
They have made a fortune recording their lives and putting it on the internet for anyone to see. Chris Miller spent a day with the Shaytards.
If you're listening to this, did you know there's another world out there where you get a second episode of Down Round a week?
Yep, it's called Down Round Premium.
That's right, and there's no interruptions.
No interruptions, no ads, 2 episodes a week, including the free one you're getting right now, plus another one.
Yeah, $7 a month, not a week, a month. Downround.net. Downround.net, instant access to the whole back catalogue as well. You've got so much to catch up on.
There's so much. Get around it.